In Chapter 2, we're going to look at some specific categories of information systems. We'll talk about the value that each one of these systems adds, how they interact with one another, and then we're going to get into collaboration technologies, which are important in the current business environment that we find ourselves in. And we'll also look at some different types of, we're going to look at enterprise level applications, which are applications that span the entire organization. Okay. So when we're thinking about information systems, you have to, certain information systems view an organization not as a set of departments or functional areas, but as a set of business processes. And a business process is a function of the organization. Kind of the most basic business process is the order process. Okay, with the order process from taking the order at the beginning to the end, information is flowing from one part of the organization to another, and we'll look at that. We'll actually look at a diagram of that. Okay. But businesses can be seen as a collection of all of these different processes. Okay, and particularly enterprise level systems and ERP systems, enterprise resource planning systems, view an organization as a set of business processes, not as a set of departments, human resources, operations, finance and accounting, etc. Okay. So these are some examples of business processes that are actually tied to functional areas. Okay, so these are the four main functional areas within most organizations: manufacturing and production, or the creation of some kind of service that you're selling to your customers. Sales and marketing, finance and accounting, and human resources. And these are examples within each of these functional areas of business processes that happen. Can you possibly name any other business processes that might fall under one of these other categories? What's something that a business does?
Training?
Training, right? And that would probably fall under human resources, right? Something that a function of the human resources. What else?
Actual sales?
Actual sales, right? Selling, the act of actually selling, right? Anything else?
Shipping and receiving?
Shipping and receiving, right? And where would that go?
Probably in manufacturing and production.
Right, it would probably be a part of that, right? Maybe sales and marketing, if it's part of the sales process, right? And again, this is, most books use this example, the order process, right? And you can see from the beginning of that process to the end of that process, you have information that's flowing from one part of the organization to another. Okay, and this is just one example. Every organization may have a different order business process, right? So, in the sales department, you're generating the order, actually submitting the order to accounting. Maybe they're doing a credit check if they don't finance in-house. Maybe they're not doing that. Approving the credit, generating the invoice. At this point, manufacturing and production would assemble the product and actually ship the product. But again, this process looks different from one organization to another. But this is just an example of how a business process, from the beginning to the end of any given business process, can span different parts of the organization. And because of that, most organizations need IS support that looks at these processes from one end to another instead of looking at individual departments. Okay. Some of the ways that that information system can help to enhance existing business processes. You might make changes to some of your existing processes, automating certain steps so that things are more efficient, things happen faster, you can be more productive possibly. Enabling new processes, so you might be looking at your existing processes and decide that you're going to create all new processes. Sometimes the systems that we're going to talk about, like ERP systems, CRM systems, may dictate the way that the way a business process is performed. Okay, and businesses may have to change the way they do things to accommodate the system itself, because the system is based on because maybe there's not a lot of flexibility in the way that that business process is completed within a particular system. Okay, so the first type of system we're going to talk about are transaction processing systems. The most basic TPS or transaction processing system is your point of sale type of checkout systems. Transaction processing systems, they record events that happen. Okay, there are other types of transaction processing systems, payroll, shipping. It's basically recording when something happens. Okay, transaction processing systems, a lot of the information that comes from these transaction processing systems are the input to other higher level systems that we'll talk about. DSS systems, executive support systems. Okay. So this is looking at an example of a payroll transaction processing system, looking at the information that is accessed. Employee data goes into a payroll system. Employee data is kind of written by the system. You may have some kind of online interface to get access to that employee data. Information may flow to some kind of general ledger for payroll, governmental agencies, IRS, things like that, employee payroll information, and then possibly even managerial reports that report on the transactions and the things that are happening in that system. Okay. Management and information systems, this is a category or a class of systems that meets the needs of middle managers. So when we're looking at that pyramid with the executive, operational, and middle management, this is a type of system that helps to support decision making at the middle management part of the organization. The information that comes from these systems is based on those transaction processing systems, like your payroll system, your order processing system, etc. Okay, they provide answers to routine questions. Okay, so there's not a lot of analytical capability. There's not a lot of it's for supporting the decision making of routine decisions that are made on a regular basis. Okay. And this is a look at how those MIS systems get their information from those transaction processing systems. Now, these systems work together. The output of one type of system, the TPS systems, are input to these managerial information systems, or MIS systems. Okay, so you can look at some of these transaction processing systems, just an example of 3 different classes. The order processing system, your materials resource planning system, general ledger system and accounting, right? Any of those could be inputs into the MIS system, okay? And from this MIS system, you have reports, displays, dashboards, other types of output of the data from these MIS systems, okay? If you guys, as I'm going along, if you have questions, let me know. Okay. This is an example of an MIS report that may come from an MIS system, looking at information for product sales, okay? Product, the code, the description, the region of the sales, the actual sales planned, and the difference between your actual and planned, okay? Yeah.
So your plan would be your forecast?
Your plan would be your forecast, right? Right. And whenever you are operating on that model where you are forecasting, you want to take into account how accurate your forecasting is, which is a part of that actual versus plan. Decision support systems is another class of system that supports the decision making of middle managers. Okay. This type of system supports that non-routine decision making. Okay, so you have MIS systems that support sort of the routine decisions, the decisions that are made on a regular basis. DSS, supports the types of systems that are not made on a regular basis, and usually decisions that we don't have a set process for how we make those decisions. Okay. Uses external information as well as information from that TPS system and MIS system. Okay, so you're getting actually a much richer view of this data because it's coming from multiple sources, including sources that are outside the organization. You have model-driven as well as data-driven DSS, and I give you examples of each one of these types of DSS systems. This is one example of, this one is the model-driven DSS, where you have different types of inputs. And whenever you see this cylinder, that's always a database or a data source. Okay, different external and internal sources going into the system where you have different analytical models that are applied to that information. And then, of course, different outputs. DSS systems, you can create analytical queries, online analytical processing or OLAP, in which you can input the variables for your model, kind of hit submit and get the output of that. Okay. Business intelligence. Business intelligence, under this umbrella of business intelligence, there's a lot of other applications that go under this idea of BI. Things like data mining, market basket analysis. What you're doing with business intelligence is you're looking at historical data and you're finding patterns in that data. I'll give you an example of the type of pattern that if the data didn't support it, you probably wouldn't really think that it was something that was related. So there's a type of analysis called a market basket analysis. Okay, a market basket analysis is where you're looking at what do people buy together. Okay, Amazon uses this model extensively to give you recommendations. If you've ever been on Amazon, you go onto the page, you look at a particular CD, and they'll give you recommendations for buying other CDs by the same artist. You buy these two things together, will give you so much off. They use market basket analysis to see what people are buying together. There was a grocery store, a grocery chain, that did a market basket analysis to see what people were buying, when they were buying it, what things they bought together, and they found out that on Friday afternoons, people were buying a lot of beer and diapers together. Okay, and they really couldn't get into why this was happening, right? You can make your own, you can kind of come up with your own ideas of why, maybe mom's calling dad on the way home, hey, we need more diapers, and he's like, I'm going to pick up a 6-pack for myself, and that's what's going on. But they found out that this was something that was actually happening. And so they had some choices as to what they could do about it, right? What are some of the things that they could do in this, this grocery store chain, knowing this information?
You can put the diapers next to the beer.
Yeah, you put them together,
Yeah.
right? A display, that would be a really interesting display. Maybe they put them far apart, right? Because what they want is they want you to have to go from one end of the store to another, hopefully buying and picking up other things on your way to get the other item, right? They could have put some kind of promotion together. You know, they had a lot of choices, but again, that's one of those things that if you didn't see the results of that data, of that market basket analysis, there's very few of us would have put that type of relationship together. And these are the types of surprising results that you can get from business intelligence, okay? Executive support systems. Executive support systems support the decision making of your senior management. These are your executive level, your CEO, CFO. And again, these types of systems support non-routine decision making, okay? A lot of the decisions that are made at the strategic level of the organization tend to be these non-routine types of decisions, okay? And it incorporates information from within the organization as well as outside the organization, because executive level managers need to have a very complete view of what's happening, not just inside the organization, what's going on with our competition, what's happening with technologies that are changing the product mix. You know, what they need to have a very complete view of what's going on, and these types of systems offer that to them, okay? And you can look at some of these systems from the different different constituencies within a particular organization, okay? A lot of time, your transaction processing system or TPS systems, they support the work of your operations level employees, okay? Managerial information systems and DSS, right? Those both support your managerial, your middle manager, your middle management level. And then, of course, executive support systems, or ESS, those support the strategic or executive level of the organization. Okay? You can also look at these different systems in regards to the relationship that they have to one another. These systems do not exist in isolation. They work together. Okay, so transaction processing systems are a major source of information for pretty much all of the other systems of the organization. Executive support systems receive data from kind of your lower level and TPS systems. Data may be exchanged between these systems, but they may not. You could have systems within a particular organization that don't exchange data very well. Sometimes the integration for these systems isn't as good as it could be. Okay. Enterprise applications are a class of applications that are used across the organization. Okay. They're going to span your functional areas. These systems tend to look at the organization as a set of business processes versus a collection of functional areas or departments. Okay, they include all levels of management, and some of the four major applications: your enterprise systems, which is your ERP systems, your supply chain management systems, which support the communication with your supply chain partners, your customer relationship management systems, which connect your organization with your customers and all of the different ways that customers communicate with your organization, and knowledge management systems. And we'll take a look a little bit more. We'll examine each one of these in a little bit more detail. Okay. With these enterprise level applications, this kind of shows you how these systems span the entire organization. They don't support just one part of the organization, like your TPS systems do. Okay, customer relationship managers connect to your management systems, customers, distributors, suppliers, business partners with your SCM systems, knowledge management, and your other enterprise level systems. Okay, Your ERP or enterprise resource planning systems collect information from across the organization, stores it. One of the big benefits to using an ERP system is that you have one set of data that everybody in the organization is utilizing and viewing. Okay, so if you have ever changed your address, you moved somewhere, you call an organization, you let them know that you are updating your address, right? But for some reason, you're still getting some mail at your old address and some mail at your new address from them. If that's ever happened to you, it's because they have more than one copy of your customer data, okay? And they upload, and when you called and you got it updated in one part of their system, but didn't update in another, okay? ERP systems help to alleviate some of the problems with having the same data in multiple places, right? Can you think of some of the issues that an organization might have if you have multiple copies of the same data? There could be errors, right? I mean, you're doing the same work, you're calculating the same stuff over and over again, right? What else? Did I hear you?
Just data management in general, you're having multiple sources of the same data.
Right, yeah. You could have decision makers across the organization making decisions based on different sets of data, right? That's bad. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about databases in more detail, about how databases specifically deal with that, okay? Supply chain management systems. These are systems that connect your organization with your suppliers, okay? You're sharing information about things like orders, production, inventory levels, delivery of goods and services. You want to make sure that you have the right amount of products with the least amount of time and cost. Supply chain management systems are a key component in a type of inventory management called just-in-time inventory management. Anybody heard of that before? Right? Can you give like a one-sentence description of it?
What, just in time?
Yep. Or maybe two.
Okay, it's just basically like you have products consistently coming in and going out. Like you don't have to like place an order for more. It's competitive, like always happening. So.
Right, you get your supplies just in time for them to go into the production process. You don't have a whole lot of raw materials sitting around waiting, right? You have to have information system support. You have to have supply chain management systems in place to share that data so that you can have the type of relationship with your suppliers that you need to have that kind of inventory management. Okay. Customer relationship management systems. This is connecting, collecting all of your customer data and getting it into one place so that no matter how a customer connects with your organization, they're seeing the same view of that customer information. Okay? What are some of the ways that you as a customer can communicate with organizations? Email? Social networks, right? Facebook, Twitter, surveys. They put out surveys, right? Different types of web forms. Blogs, right? How about chat? Anybody ever used chat before to communicate? I love chat. I don't want to talk to somebody. I don't want to wait through a phone tree. I just want to go directly to chat. I have all of the transcript. I can email it to myself so that I can come back and I know exactly what was said. I don't have to wait 24 to 48 hours like an email. And that's one of those things that a lot of organizations are starting to implement. That's one of those tools that it started out as a very social tool, and it's become something that businesses are incorporating in the way that they communicate with their customers. Now, with a good supply chain management system, if you had an issue, you would be able to track that issue every time you call the organization to get help with that issue. They should be able to see the same information, a log of all of your interactions and the things that different customer service representatives said and helped you with. Okay. Knowledge management systems, another type of enterprise level system. Knowledge management systems are systems that help to get the knowledge, the tacit and the tangible and intangible type of knowledge into one place for the organization. So organizations all have tangible information, documents, instruction manuals, rules, business processes that are documented. But there's also information that resides in the heads of the employees. Okay, information. If you've ever start a new job, and you go through your formal training process, but you ask one of your peers how to do something, they say, you know who knows how to do that? Joe knows how to do that, right? And Joe is usually somebody who's been around for a long time, has done this same job, and really understands how to be productive doing this job, right? Some of the things that they may teach you are not going to be documented. They're not going to be in the formal training. They're going to say, oh, no, they tell you to do it that way, but if you do A, B, and C, it's going to be faster. You'll get your job done better, right? What happens when Joe leaves the organization? The information leaves with that person, right? It's the only place that it resides is in their head, right? So knowledge management systems, also you have, the only people that are blessed with Joe's wisdom are the people that work with that person, right? If you could capture that information in a system so that you could share it across the organization, you could see productivity and other types of gains based on the fact that you're sharing that information across the organization. So knowledge management systems are a way of trying to capture that knowledge from people's heads as well as all of the documented information in one place so that you can share that information across the organization. Right? Why would Joe possibly not want to share their information? What might be some reasons that that person might not want to share their data or their information?
Go out and start their own company, make it
Possibly.
patent it or something.
Right, maybe they know something that they could, they could branch out on their own, right? And they don't want everybody to know that. Maybe they feel like it offers them a level of job security,
Good job.
right? I'm the one who knows that, and if I share that information, I become replaceable, okay? So when it comes to getting this information from people, there's some behavioral aspects in regards to whether or not a knowledge management system is going to work within a particular organization or not, okay?
Is that like SharePoint?
It could be, yeah, it could be, SharePoint's a very, SharePoint is a very robust, would be a good way of saying it. There are different ways you can set up your SharePoint environments. So one SharePoint environment could look different from another. So to say that all of them, it's a little bit, but yeah, it can be used in that way. There's other tools that help with the sharing of information across an organization as well as outside the organization. Intranets are networks within an organization. It uses the internet infrastructure, but it's only for certain parties within the organization. Okay, so let me give you an example. Blackboard. What's the purpose of Blackboard here on campus?
Access it.
Right, it's
Teachers.
it's to support student and faculty interaction, share information. It's not the type of tool that you need to see if you're outside the organization, right? It's really for the use of internal parties. It would be part of the intranet here on campus. When you go to the My Laverne 2.0, all of that is a part of the intranet within campus. You log in, you see your own information, you're able to make changes to it. It's actually a pretty nice system because it's very integrated. You log in once and it logs you into other systems. Okay, that would be an example of an intranet. An extranet is a part of, it's sort of like this intranet type of tool, but you're connecting stakeholders outside the organization. So you might have an extranet that connects business partners, suppliers, customers, right? It's still for parties that that you need to share data with, okay? But it's not, they're not internal to the organization. So the amount of information, the type of information you're going to share is going to be different, okay? Now these are some general concepts in regards to information systems that you should be aware of as we move forward. E-business, you probably have heard e-business and e-commerce as terms that are used interchangeably. Okay, they're not the same thing. E-business is everything you do online. Okay, whether it is advertising, whether it is sales, whether it is marketing, everything you do online is a part of this e-business umbrella. E-commerce is a subset of e-business, and it deals particularly with transactions, buying and selling of goods using the internet. Okay, so it's a subset of e-business. E-government is the use of the internet to support processes within different governmental organizations and bodies. Okay, so what are some examples of e-government that you can think of? Huh? The DMV? The DMV is a really good example. Here in California, our DMV, there's a lot of different things that you can do online, right? Register your vehicles. You can make appointments. That's a lifesaver. I remember going to the DMV without the appointment system and their queuing system, and you would have to spend a half a day to a day at the DMV at a minimum, right? So there's more and more you find local and federal governments here in the U.S. More kind of focused on the U.S. but governments that use the internet and the internet technologies to support their operations. Okay. Now when it comes to different things that you do within an organization, collaboration is a very important part of what the business operations of most organizations. Okay. For collaboration, you can have short-term projects that you have groups of people collaborating on. It might be long-term projects. You can have formal or informal teams. General rule of thumb, the bigger the organization, the more formal your communication structure and teams tend to be. And the reason for the importance of collaboration in some of these regions, the changing the way that we do things, we do work. Okay, this growth of this idea of professional work, interaction jobs, the changes that organizations go through. Okay, possibly changing the scope of the firm. Maybe Google is one of those organizations that it seems like they're not afraid to get their get their hands into different industries, different businesses. Okay, they have things that are that they're into that it seems like they put stuff out there, see if it flies, and if it doesn't, then they just try something else. Okay, emphasis on innovation. Okay, not just in your products, but also the way that you do internal business processes, and of course the changing culture of work. A lot of benefits to collaboration and teamwork. Okay, productivity, possible productivity, possibly better quality outputs. Right. Sometimes it's nice just to have team members to talk things out with, to brainstorm on ideas. Innovation, customer service, financial performance, all of these things are possible benefits to good collaboration. And the tools that we have for supporting collaboration have gotten to be better over time. Okay? So we're going to look at some of the requirements for collaboration, right? Do you have an open culture in your organization? A decentralized structure. If you have a very centralized structure, you're not going to foster collaboration as easily. What is the breadth of the collaboration that you do? What are some of the technologies that you use to support collaboration within your organization? Okay. This comes up with what's the quality of the collaboration within your organization and the performance, hopefully enhancing your firm's performance through the collaboration that is done. Okay? And you have different, when it comes to collaboration and teamwork, you have different organizations trying to build this type of collaborative culture have to look at certain areas. You might have organizations that have this command and control type of culture where you don't have a lot of value placed on teamwork or lower level participation in discussion. For some organizations, collaboration is not going to work very well. Okay. A collaborative business culture, you have senior managers who rely on teams of employees who trust in the team process and the collaboration process. Some managers whose purpose is to build teams, and then of course policies, products, designs, systems that all rely on this team structure. Okay, so you probably have all been on teams, even if it wasn't for work, if it's for school. And I was a business student, and I know how teams, how sometimes you can get great teams and sometimes you don't get great teams, or groups. I mean, it happens. Not that I'm saying that we're going to have, hopefully, we don't have any issues here in our teams, but this idea of collaboration, you have to have a culture that supports that in order for collaboration and teamwork to be productive. Okay, these are just some of the technologies that are out there for collaboration and teamwork. Email and instant messaging, file sharing, event scheduling, and there are technologies that incorporate a lot of these different functions to support teamwork and to support collaboration. Okay, but these are just some of the different types of technologies, and there's systems that incorporate all of these different technologies. Okay, social networking, wikis. Would anybody tell the class really quickly what a wiki is?
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia is an example, right? And Wikipedia is probably the most famous example of a wiki. A wiki is a set or a collection of web pages that are easily changed. Okay, any of you could go onto Wikipedia, create an account, and change any of the pages in any manner that you wish. Whether those changes stay or not is a different story. Okay, because wikis incorporate this capability where you can roll back to previous versions of the wiki. And so if something happens, Wikipedia pages quite often get vandalized depending on the page and the climate. And so with that wiki feature where you can roll back, it's very easy to go back to previous better versions of the wiki. Okay. Virtual worlds, sort of simulation, there's this, and I don't know how big it is anymore, but there is this virtual world platform called Second Life. Anybody heard of Second Life before? It had its day in the sun, and it's still out there, but I don't know, I'm not really sure what the climate is for using it. Second Life is an avatar-based simulated world. We kind of think of things like, my husband, right now, he's a big gamer, and right now he's playing Diablo 3, and it drives me up the wall. But World of Warcraft, some of those massively multiple online platforms, gaming platforms where you can play with other people. Those are all kind of this idea of this virtual world platform. Second Life is, because it's a little bit less game focused. It has more. There are businesses that have created a presence on Second Life. You can take your avatar to a Toyota dealership and drive their virtual cars that they've created, stuff like that. Cal Poly, I don't know if they do it anymore, but Cal Poly used to hold some of their graduation ceremonies in Second Life. I'm not really sure exactly how they did that, I just know that they did.
You can sell like clothes on there or something. Like
You can create goods and you can actually sell it. They have an economic structure that they're called Linden dollars, but they have an economic structure where you can buy Linden dollars so that you have more of them with real money, or you can cash out your Linden dollars for actual money. So people, there's stories of people that made that for a while made a living on Second Life in different ways. Some of the internet-based collaboration tools, virtual meeting systems are really very extensively used by organizations. Being able to meet using using some kind of video conferencing system, right? What are some of the benefits to an organization for things like video conferencing?
The distance, like the traveling?
Right, the cost, right? To get a group of people together to work on a project, you don't have to fly them all into one place. All of the costs involved in traveling, and it's not just the cost that you're actually spending, but what about the productivity loss? If you're away from, you've had a job where you leave your desk or your job for a week or 2 weeks, and you come back. And you have to basically catch up and do all of that work. A lot of times it doesn't get done, right? You have to kind of come back and catch up. So video conferencing systems are extensively used. Google Apps, they have a lot of different applications. Google Docs. If you've ever used Google Docs before, you can easily share different documents. Excel, spreadsheets, presentation, Word documents, and you can share them with other people. You can give them the right to make changes to that. With Google Docs, you can actually have more than one person logged into a document, and you can sit back and watch them make changes in real time. Okay. So these are just some of the other types of internet-based collaboration tools. Okay, and there's two different dimensions when we're looking at these collaboration tools. Okay, one of them deals with the space or the location. Okay, is it a technology that supports group work and collaboration remotely, or is it a technology where you need to be in the same place in order for it to work? And then time. Is it a synchronous or asynchronous technology? Right? What's an example of a technology that would be considered asynchronous? Email. Right? You send your email, it sits in their inbox, and you wait for them to see the email, reply back to it. Right? You don't have to be in the same. You don't have to be online at the same time, like something like chat. Right? Chat is a synchronous type of technology, and if you aren't both online and in the same chat room at the same time, then it doesn't work. Okay. And when organizations are evaluating which tools they should decide to invest in, invest not only monetarily but also their time and effort to get up and running, right? They have to look at different aspects of their organization. They have to ask themselves some questions. Things like, what are your firm's collaboration challenges, right? is collaboration something that your organization and the culture of your organization would support? What kinds of solutions are available? So once you understand what your need is, what are the options, right? There's, some cloud-based options, there are some free versus paid options. Looking at the different costs and benefits, anytime an organization looks at a new technology or a system, they have to do a cost-benefit analysis, right? What are the security risks, right? If you are using a cloud-based technology, how secure is your information, right? The nature of cloud-based technologies is that it is hosted on somebody else's server. The information and the application itself is not in-house. You don't have as much control over the information and the application, right? Looking at consulting users for any implementation and training issues. And implementation, this includes the whole area of change management, getting people to accept the new technology, the new system, the changes that come with those things. And then, of course, looking at the different vendors that are out there and evaluating and comparing. Okay, so this looks at that time and space collaboration mix. So if you're looking at synchronous types of systems where you're in the same place, it's more about face-to-face. If you're in the same place and it's synchronous, it's going to be face-to-face. Right? If it's synchronous, but you're in a different place, you're looking at remote interactions, video conferencing, chat messaging, things like that. Okay? If it's a different time, which is asynchronous, but the same place, you might have things like team rooms, public displays, maybe some kind of bulletin board where people can put information and share it, but they don't have to be there at the same time. Okay? Or different place and different time. Email, actual virtual bulletin boards, wikis, calendars, and again, so you can look at the need that your organization has to fill. Are people going to be in the same place at the same time? Do they, and if not, what is the nature of the work they'll be doing, and what type of system can support that collaboration? Okay. Now, every organization has some kind of IT department. Depending on the organization, it could be, one or two people. It could be a whole team. The larger the organization, the more formalized the IT, probably the larger the IT. Okay. In large organizations, there are usually executive level managers that are IT based. It could be a chief security or information officer. Okay, and these monikers and jobs didn't exist 50, 60 years ago in these organizations, because the role that IT plays in organizations has changed over that course of time. Particularly with the internet, it had a big the internet and the use of the internet had a big effect on the way that we look at IT within the organization. Okay, but your IT department, you're usually going to have some programmers, systems analysis, and other types of IS managers. Now, the executive level managers, the executive level IT managers, they have a pretty hard job. They have to be able to speak two different languages. They have to be able to talk to their programmers, their technology, their systems designers, and understand what they do, and to be able to communicate with them about the technical aspects of what the department does. But they also have to talk to their peers. They have to report to the CEO. They have to report back to different departments, and they have to be able to explain what their department does in layman's terms. If you've ever watched two people that work in a very specialized work environment where they have their own jargon and you've watched them talk to one another, a lot of times it's like they're speaking a totally different language. If you don't work in that environment and you don't understand the jargon that's used. Okay? So these chief, kind of the executive level information systems officers, they have to be able to understand and communicate in both of these different environments. Okay? You also have end users for any system. The end users are the people that are going to actually be using this system in their day-to-day business. Okay? Toward the end of the term, we're going to talk about systems design and the process that organizations go through when they decide to, they need a new system, the implementation, the creation of the system. The view on end users in that process has changed over time. 50, 60 years ago, you would have your end users and your managers, they would tell a project team, we need a finance system, and here's the things that we needed to do, right? They'd have, and then that project team would go away, would create the system, come back and tell them, here's your system. And this resulted at times in systems that didn't meet the needs of the end users because they weren't involved in the process. Okay. All organizations also have governance of their IT, right? Because of the larger role that IT plays within the organization, you have to have policies and accountability in regards to the information that people have access to, right? How do you control what people can do and who has access to what? What are some of the policies that you have in regards to using these technologies within the organization, right? One of my previous jobs, I worked in an office environment. I was actually a workers' comp claims adjuster. It's the most stressful job I've ever had. And I remember, signing. You get your own computer and you get onto the internet, and they have all of these policies. Here's the email policy. You have to read it and